And right now, just wanted to give you an update on things. We may hang here for a little bit just to give warning to the control booth back there, but we have a very intense thunderstorm that is ongoing right now. There have been reports of substantial damage around Tama County, and the National Weather Service is saying winds are possibly near 100 miles an hour or higher. There's emergency managers in that area saying winds we're likely 100 miles an hour. They're saying Tama County, Tama and Toledo had substantial damage across both communities. Power lines, trees, roofs, winds, in excess of 80 miles an hour wind still continuing to blow, raining hard. Incredibly intense thunderstorms ongoing here. There's a severe thunderstorm warning for Tama County that is for 90 mile an hour winds. So this is not something that we see every day. It's incredibly intense. And we have a State Center around Highway 30, significant damage there. Numerous cars blown off Highway 30 and flipped. We have still portions of the rest of the area here as this goes towards Benton County, Iowa County, Keokuk County, right here on the edge, that are going to be dealing with these incredibly intense winds as the storm moves at about 70 miles an hour. So now this is starting to move out of Tama County, still likely some strong winds. And just to show you some of the numbers here, I mean, you just look at this. These are incredibly bright velocities. So just to show you the winds, 73 miles an hour, 61. 77, that's just inside of the thunderstorm there. 91 miles an hour showing up in some spots. 66, I mean, we have just incredibly intense thunderstorms ongoing at the moment that could be producing winds up to 100 miles an hour or greater. Meteorologist Nick Stewart is out in the road warrior right now and in this area. And Nick, I don't know if you've seen other reports floating around on social media, but we have had numerous reports of power outages, trees down, and now you're out there watching the storms now.
Yeah, I really believe it. Right now, we're right on the leading edge of this storm. We are just north of Belle Plaine by Van Horn, racing back east on 30. I don't know how well you can see it, but the corn in the foreground is almost being knocked completely to the ground. Very intense winds now racing down Highway 30. There's a lot of leaves flying through the air, a lot of damage. Look at all the leaves and debris flying through the air right now. The core of those winds, upwards of 100 miles per hour, probably about a mile or two behind us. So we're trying to stay out ahead of the storm, but I know at some point we're going to get munched on this thing. Thankfully, we're in a safe spot in terms of the vehicle. We're making sure we're staying away from power lines and trees, but there's an immense a lot of debris, agricultural debris flying through the air. Corn stalks, we saw big leaves of corn stalks. Look at these trees here. The corn is flowing down as well. So really intense winds racing right now down Highway 30. I would venture a guess we are probably about a mile or so ahead of the really intense winds, which the National Weather Service now says could be upwards of 100 miles per hour along what we call that bookend, which is just on 30 right now. It looks like there's a pretty good indication of very intense winds just northwest of Belle Plaine, west of Belle Plaine, Keystone area right now, and this is coming right towards Cedar Rapids. So Cedar Rapids, we've been telling you, you need to take these storms very seriously. These storms will pack quite the punch. Again, we're talking wind gusts upwards of 100 miles per hour, and we're already seeing indications of that on the very leading edge. Rebecca?
Yeah, and Nick, we've gotten reports now in Marshall County of 106 mile an hour wind gusts. Now we have this warning now, Sarah, for Lynn County, for Cedar Rapids is for 90 mile an hour winds. This is for 90 mile an hour winds. So folks, we're staying here. We have a very intense thunderstorm. I'm treating this as if this is a tornado warning, because you're going to have damage that's even more widespread than this. We've had this happen before, that we have seen intense damage and intense crop damage. You're likely hearing the sirens go off, because we have incredibly strong winds. We have had confirmation of nearly 100 mile an hour or greater wind gusts twice now. So we have storm in Tama County, 60 to 80 mile an hour winds, buildings losing roofing materials and tree damage. Responders are going out. That's from the emergency manager there. LeGrand in Marshall County, 106 mile an hour winds. We have Chelsea and Tama County, 90-mile-an-hour winds. Damaged building at their public health office. The National Weather Service is continuing to communicate, as Nick just said, 100-mile-an-hour winds or greater are possible with these thunderstorms. And it is that little bookend, Nick was talking about that word. There's just this little curl happening here. And this is moving through Belle Plaine, heading towards Newhall and heading toward the Cedar Rapids area, especially south side of Cedar Rapids. But really, this is an intense line here. It's going to come up Highway 100, Highway 30, I-80, Highway 6, down toward Marengo, Williamsburg, along I-80, toward Iowa City, Coralville, North Liberty, everyone in between Cedar Rapids to Iowa City. This is an incredibly intense thunderstorm that is ongoing right now, and we are going to continue to bring you some of the images too from out there. And Sarah, maybe we can try and find some things on Twitter on our scan-do to see if we can get some images up of what was happening out in western Iowa. You can take that one from Aaron too there of the pool. But I mean, we have had such intense winds of just 90 to 100 miles an hour that have been occurring here. So this is not something to mess around with. You want to stay away from windows. We've had reports out in Des Moines of some of the sliding glass windows that have been broken, fences going down, and we have just these incredibly, incredibly strong winds that are going to be moving through. I'm going to time this out here because I know a lot of people have that question of when is it coming here? So it's moving, it's getting right to Williamsburg and Sigourney now, and moving very fast to the east at around 70 miles an hour, heading towards Williamsburg about now. Sigourney in the next couple of minutes, around 12:20. Vinton around 12:30. Cedar Rapids 12:30 to 12:40 is about when this is going to arrive. So we have about 20 minutes or so before the winds start to really pick up, and we could be experiencing winds that perhaps get as high as 100 miles an hour. At least we're looking at 80 to 90 mile an hour winds. Iowa City around 12:40, 12:45 in Washington, 12:50 in West Liberty, and about 12:55 in Anamosa. If we do have the P-Scan-Do available, that would be great to show some of these images. So this is from Aaron, and this was his aunt's pool in Norwalk, so that's further west, but pool totally leveled from the winds there. We have had just a lot of scenes like this of people's businesses, doors coming in, people's fences being taken down, trampolines getting tossed into other people's yards. So you are likely hearing the tornado sirens, yes. And you are likely going to be hearing some very strong winds as this comes through, as this intense line of thunderstorms comes through the area. I'm going to go back out to meteorologist Nick Stewart in the Road Warrior. What's going on, Nick? Wow.
Hey, Rebecca, I think you just asked me. Yeah, right now we are on Highway 30. We're near the Van Horn area. All right, here's the strong winds. We are just in the core now. All right, Jason, if you want to pull over safely, you can do so. We are now in the core of really intense winds. We got a big burst right there. You can see we are going probably about 40 to 50, and you can see the wind is going faster than we are. The rain's going faster than we are. Intense wind with this storm right now. You can probably see leaves flying through the air. That's debris flying through the air as well. Jason, let me get you a good crossroad here as soon as I can. We got a road coming up, and again, you can see really intense wind happening with this storm. We got cars. This car is just in oncoming traffic. I don't know what this guy is doing. Wow. Okay. People, you need to get off the roads because I don't know what that was, but that was big problems. We got debris flying up the road with us right now. In about a quarter of a mile, we have a crossroad that we are going to pull off of. You can see winds are ripping through right now. These trees are on the left, so let's slow down, Jason. Right, this should be our crossroad right about here. Yep, go right. Yep, if you can. Actually, no. Watch out to the right. Watch out to the right. You're good, you're good. So again, really intense winds right now. We should be good here, Jason. Okay, we are now in the really intense core of this storm. You can just see how fast the wind is going right now. Really, really intense wind with the storm as it moves down Highway 30. Right now, we are right near Van Horn. This is coming right towards you in Cedar Rapids. Very intense wind is flying with the storm right now. You can see debris flying up the road. I wouldn't be surprised if we do see power lines go down at some point as well. very intense wind. Jason, if you want to pull up a little bit more, I'm a little concerned with the power lines behind us. You can go ahead maybe about another 20, 30 feet and we should be okay. Yeah, I think we're good here. We should be good here. Yep. So again, really intense wind with this. Again, this is right now just technically south of Van Horn on Highway 30. Intense wind falling with the storm right now. I can pull up our wind sensor. The whole car is being moved as well with the storm. That was a wind gust of 72. We just picked a gust of 72 miles an hour, Rebecca.
Yeah, Nick, I am just in that area here. So right around Keystone, right along Highway 30 down to the south where Nick is, around Belle Plaine, Van Horn. 90 miles an hour is one of the radar estimates, and he's saying 72 mile an hour gusts. I would not be, I mean, you can see the corn bending, and you hate to see that. You hate to see, and you can just see how intense that is. And Nick is dealing with you can just see the incredibly low visibility, the debris. I mean, the car, a very, very big car being blown off. I mean, starting to see some debris there. We have seen so many reports of these homes and businesses and buildings being damaged. And unfortunately, I mean, there's going to be so much loss on these crops too. So this is right along Highway 30. This is coming to the east incredibly quickly, and it is going to be an intense period of strong winds as it comes to the east here. So this is the situation. Very, very dangerous thunderstorm. If you do not have to be out, then please stay inside, and you want to just be away from the windows is going to be the key thing here as we're dealing with these intense thunderstorms that are going to produce winds of 80, 90, maybe even higher in terms of the wind speeds. So this is heading to the east towards Cedar Rapids. I'm going to put on the reflectivity, the radar without the lightning right now. And just to show you, this is a bowing segment. So when you get this kind of bow that happens here, this is indicating very intense straight line winds. This is continuing to the east. So Nick is about here. This is coming to the east towards Cedar Rapids. And it is likely a bit weaker on this north side here, but still weaker means like 60 or 70 mile an hour winds as opposed to the 80, 90 mile an hour winds. So this is an intense thunderstorm that is going to continue to the east, likely also impacting areas down to the south here. Going through Williamsburg, you're likely experiencing those heavy winds and those strong winds. Marengo, heading towards Oxford, Norway, Newhall, Cedar Rapids, the airport, and then going to continue to trek to the east here. So if we can go to our ScanDo, just another example. This is out on the highway on I-35, or no, Highway 169 around Ogden, out in western Iowa, west of Des Moines. Semi tipped over. So we are experiencing incredibly intense winds. This was from earlier, and it is going to continue as we go through the next couple of hours here as it comes to the east. Sarah, have you seen anything else from the National Weather Service that's come through?
Yeah, we got a 70 mile per hour wind report.
Sarah is on mic.
I'm not sure if you can.
One of them.
Nick just said a peak gust of
On mic 4.
per hour south of Van Horn.
Okay, can we check your mic, Sarah? But so we do have what did Nick just say? I'm sorry, you can just tell me.
92 mile per hour south of Van Horn.
92 mile an hour winds, sustained at 70 miles an hour. So we're seeing these very strong wind gusts. Sarah, we can check your box on your microphone so we can get that on. But we have, I mean, look at where Nick is at. The corn is bending. Nick, can you just, explain to me what you're seeing out there? That's intense. That's insane.
Wow.
I don't know if Nick can hear me, but Nick, if you can just tell me what you're seeing out there, it looks incredibly intense.
This is insane.
Well, I don't know if Nick can actually hear me.
That was 90.
The storms are very, very.
We lost the window. We lost the back window.
Okay, so we're gonna. If you guys can take Nick's mic down, we're gonna let them make sure they get to somewhere safe. But an incredibly intense thunderstorm is coming through. If you know anyone who's on the roads right now and that can get off of the roads that are on anywhere from around I-380 south of Waterloo to Cedar Rapids, on Highway 30, 151, Highway 6, Highway 1, I-80, incredibly intense thunderstorms, very low visibility. This is a dangerous thunderstorm that is going through right now and going to continue to go to the east along Highway 30. And this is heading towards Newhall. You can see that Nick has already passed where the edge of the storm is. And I mean, he is still experiencing incredibly intense winds. I don't know if it was the wind that literally blew out the back window of the Road Warrior, but it looks like it's getting even worse out there. I mean, that is incredibly strong. He said 92-mile-an-hour winds and possibly higher than that. It looks like that they were going up. So just to show you, if we can get some of the numbers maybe to show you on here, but we have Belle Plaine is getting out of kind of the worst of it, but heading towards Newhall. We're getting a little bit of the radar debris in here, but I'm anticipating that we're seeing a good swath of, yeah, that's not quite right, of 80-mile-an-hour winds or so, maybe 90, and just some incredibly intense stuff. And I don't know if anyone can let me know if we have Facebook Live going, because we usually tend to get some reports through there. But Sarah, have you seen anything else come through on National Weather Service?
Yeah, so we talked about Marshall County earlier. That was the first one that was issued, that 99-mile-per-hour winds. They're saying large sections of roof blown off at this time. We're seeing cars overturned on the highway, trucks overturned, especially near more central Iowa after this storm passed through. And it really hasn't weakened over the past couple minutes, or really the hour at that. And still getting tons of reports. We're seeing a lot of things on Twitter of power lines down. It is expected that lots of areas are going to lose power here shortly as the storm continues to progress over there. We're seeing lots of trees down. Really, these winds are hurricane force winds. I know Nick mentioned that before, but it seems like most reports are coming in 70 to 85 miles per hour, but we have had some gusts upwards of 100 miles per hour. So
yeah, I mean, we've had multiple reports of these incredibly intense winds, and we've seen people sending these photos of, I mean, here's a business in Urbandale, so around the Des Moines area, several trees downed and the roof off of the building there. So this is just going to continue to get worse. We still have, I mean, we can even still see some of the sun poking through probably in parts of Cedar Rapids, but there's clouds starting to move in now. We have the, we are going to start to see this get very intense in the Cedar Rapids area in the next, just matter of minutes, the next 10 to 15 minutes. If anyone does have a, any DOT cameras or anything like that, any of the cameras like that we can see along this storm, then we can also look at that situation and see how things are going. Can we just take Nick's picture? We don't necessarily, we don't have Nick's picture. So they had very, very intense winds going on there, and they are going to hopefully get out of the worst of that shortly here. But we have these strong winds that have been in excess of 90 miles an hour moving into the Cedar Rapids area and going to come through Lynn County right now. So Nick is saying peak gusts to 92 miles an hour, and we in the Van Horn area, sustained at 70 miles an hour. Marengo at 60-mile-an-hour winds, and that's kind of on the southern side where it's a little bit weaker. So, you know, around the Cedar Rapids, Williamsburg, Iowa City areas, that's really where I'm seeing the bigger concerns right now. And even in some of these thunderstorms up to the north, 50, 60-mile-an-hour winds have been going on. So just an incredible amount of damage has been ongoing. Storm chasers in Marshall County, Marshalltown, saying estimated winds of 90 to 100 miles an hour. And that is just upsetting after they have just reached their anniversary and have been doing a lot of work there. So hopefully not a lot of damage, but Marshalltown reports several large sections of roof blown off buildings along Old Highway 30 in the south part of Marshalltown. And we have these very, very strong winds heading to the east. And we are going to be seeing these issues come into the Cedar Rapids area very shortly. So Newhall is really getting in on those intense winds right now, heading toward the Benton area and Shellsburg, Cedar Rapids, Palo, Eastern Iowa Airport, if you're around the airport area, Cedar Hills, Worthington Acres, Ely. I'm just going to go in here and we're going to call out some names. If you hear your town name, you are going to be experiencing very intense winds here in the next 10 to 20 minutes. Fairfax, in Swisher, Walford, it's happening right now. The Oxford area, Tiffin, North Liberty, Coralville, Iowa City, and it's going through Williamsburg right now. This is an incredibly, incredibly intense thunderstorm, and we are going to have the thunderstorms just continue to progress to the east with nothing really stopping them, unfortunately. So if we can take the sky cam in Coralville right now, you can see the thunderstorm starting to approach. The skies are getting dark. The emergency managers may be putting the sirens out a couple of times. This is for these thunderstorms producing winds of 70 miles an hour or greater. This will do more widespread damage than what we will get with just a tornado, unfortunately, because we're not talking about just one singular thing. We're talking about a big swath, big area. So I'm going to try and pull up some DOT cameras too and try and see if we can get some other views of what's happening in the area, because this is not here. But we do have some very intense winds going on. Okay, so if you guys can take my weather scan this is, you can see people are stopped in the area. Highway 30, County Home Road V66. This is in Benton County. The camera is rocking. There are just cars totally stopped. Visibility is down. This is the intensity that is coming to Cedar Rapids and Iowa City. This is an incredibly dangerous thunderstorm. Lightning is ongoing. There are likely going to be power poles that come down and trees that come down. If you have to head out the door right now, try to wait. This is not something that you want to be driving out in. Incredibly low visibility. There's going to be debris flying in the roadway. Nick Stewart is a very experienced storm chaser who that storm caught up. It is moving incredibly fast, and they went through that and had debris flying toward the car. The car is getting pushed off the road. There are semis and trucks stopped here. We've already seen trucks stopped in the area, and trucks that have been flipped over in the area from this thunderstorm. I mean, this is just incredible. This is an insanely strong winds right now. Sarah, are you seeing anything from the Weather Service? Any more reports?
Yeah, I mean, mainly the threat with this storm is the winds. Obviously, we've been talking about that. There is reports of small hail along with it, but again, really, we're just focusing on the winds. That's what's causing the damage. That's what's taking down the trees. You can see on this right here, or on the camera that she just showed you at US 30, trucks are being blown off the road. That's how intense these winds are, and that's really going to be the story for the next couple of minutes. And I know Rebecca said these storms are moving quickly across the area. They continue to push east, but for the most part, for the time being, as they head into Cedar Rapids and Iowa City here shortly, it's going to be very intense for the next several minutes. Expect these winds and expect lots of power to go out, because we're already, I'm sure, starting to see that already as these storms push across.
So yeah, I mean, I'm sure you can look on probably like Mid-American and stuff like that, and Alliant, and see. I'm gonna try and see if I can find some other cameras out ahead of this, but I mean, we're gonna see this come into the Cedar Rapids area, and especially the south side of town. That's where I have my greatest concern. On this northern side, you're probably not going to get into as intense of the winds, but Shellsburg, you could be still experiencing 60-mile-an-hour winds. We're still in a warning for 90-mile-an-hour winds here. And we're likely going to see possibly another warning get issued as this thunderstorm continues to trek to the east. So this is coming closer to Cedar Rapids along Highway 30, especially toward the Eastern Iowa Airport in Walford. I'm sure that the winds aren't getting incredibly intense in that area right now. I'm going to see if I'm going to see if I can find some more live video of what's going on. But we do have video from out in Tama. So this is a roof torn off of a building there. Yeah, and bricks, it looks like bricks are down in the street. So this is in Tama. This just went through Tama, and it's heading toward the Cedar Rapids area along Highway 30. And what you just saw Nick go through in Newhall, Norway, toward Eastern Iowa Airport on Highway 151 and Highway 30 there, where that cross section is. It's about to get very intense. And it is going to continue to go along I-380. If you know someone who is possibly commuting along I-380 right now, you need to let them know that this is a very dangerous thunderstorm, and visibility is going to drop. They can get off of the road. I'm sure that there's going to be a lot of people that are going to stop and pull over, and there's going to be a lot of issues there. So here, yeah, Highway 30 and 16th Avenue Southwest side of Cedar Rapids. Here it goes. It's starting now. The wind is going to make this incredibly difficult to travel in because there's intense rain. There's going to be debris. We have seen this happen. So just be aware that if you have to head out, it's going to have to wait because there are going to be people that are stopping. I mean, there are hardly people on the roads right now, and it is getting very intense. It looks like people are having a hard time even driving in it, and there's heavy rain, very low visibility occurring right now. And it's going to continue to the east toward the south side of the city of Cedar Rapids. Prolific lightning going on, very heavy rain, incredibly strong winds ongoing. The National Weather Service is saying numerous winds of 90 miles an hour or greater, Benton County. Several reports of damage. It is going into the Cedar Rapids metro area, into downtown. We are going to be likely experiencing some power outages and seeing a lot of debris, a lot of issues that are going to happen. We have seen multiple reports here recently of this thunderstorm damage ongoing here. So we have just this intense line of thunderstorms that's going to continue to produce strong winds and heavy rainfall, and it is heading toward the downtown Cedar Rapids area. There are a lot of people on the highway. I'm just clicking around on our DOT cameras, and there are some people around the metro area, but the skies are going to get dark. Sarah, can you get, yeah, we can go to the Coralville camera too. There's Highway 30 and Williams Boulevard. You can't even see, I can see some lights flashing, but you can hardly see what's going on here. And this is coming into Cedar Rapids now, and it is going to go to Iowa City next. And we can see it, the wind's starting to pick up in Coralville. Could you go to our Cedar Rapids sky camera? Sure. And we can see some of that too. So you can see some of the lights flashing here. Sorry, I think I might have control of that mouse. There's the Cedar Rapids camera. So you can see shelf cloud. The northeast side of town may get a little spared by this, meaning maybe we have 70 mile an hour winds or 60 mile an hour winds instead of the 90 to 100 mile an hour winds, but it's still going to get very intense around here. So there's the shelf cloud starting to come in, and we are going to be experiencing very low visibility, very strong winds here very shortly. And we are going to just watch this come to the east here as we go through the next basically hour out of eastern Iowa. So as this happens, we're going to continue to see these intense winds. So I would expect to see these 90 mile an hour winds probably extending from, I mean, close to Highway 100, down I-380 to the airport here, and then down toward the North Liberty, Tiffin, and going to the Iowa City area. And I don't want to discount what's going on up to the north here. We do have multiple other severe thunderstorm warnings. I don't want to exclude you, but Waterloo, Manchester, Guttenberg, we have severe thunderstorm warnings that are ongoing, and they are producing some 50, 60 mile an hour winds, some heavy rain there as well. So did get in touch with meteorologist Nick Stewart and Jason Meyer, who are in the Road Warrior. They are doing okay, but they did go through that very intense storm. So just showing you that there are some issues out there. There are some, oh, we just had the power flash here. So we are going to continue to see issues on the roads and just experiencing power outages and a lot of damage likely going to occur, unfortunately. So if we go to the Scan-Do, here's Highway 100 and Covington Road on the weather Scan-Do. And this is, I mean, this is close, getting close to the northwest side of town here. Very, very intense winds and low visibility. It doesn't look like it's wanting to go anymore. But this is just an incredibly intense thunderstorm continuing to produce winds of 100 miles an hour or possibly up to 100 miles an hour, and multiple reports of 70 to 80 to 90 mile an hour winds. Right now, let's go back to the radar here, and there is, yeah, so the warning was extended, and okay, so we have 80 mile an hour winds for that warning that now extends out of Cedar Rapids to the eastern part all the way to the Mississippi. And I'm trying to make sure that I know that people, I've got texts that people have lost power now, and we are going to try and get this on Facebook so everyone can see what's going on here. But there is, I mean, it's getting really intense by the airport. If I'm around Ely, I'm assuming that Ely is starting to get in on this now and heading towards Bertram and Lisbon. So we have some very, very intense winds here. Let me see what I can pick up on. 71 miles an hour, 85 miles an hour. This is on the south side of Cedar Rapids. And then in the Cedar Rapids area, 66 miles an hour. Let's see. So, I mean, I'm guessing scattered 70 to 80 mile an hour winds are going to be the concern here, with some gusts that could get up to 90. So definitely something to just be aware of, that yes, if you have not been hit by this storm yet and you're still listening, you're likely going to lose power. It is coming to the North Liberty, the Iowa City area, the Solon area, and it's really starting to move into Iowa City now. And it is going to be very intense at the moment. So we are streaming on Facebook Live, and so you can watch there if you do happen to lose power. I think we might be having an internet issue where we can't get the DOT cameras, or they're maybe having an issue. But if we can look around the downtown Cedar Rapids area or anything like that. But here's a look on the northeast side where a wall of rain is starting to come in here. And it is going to probably get intense here in the next minute or two. It's coming this way, and you can see all the people that are out on Collins. And we have some very, very intense winds starting to come in. And there you go. It's just picking up now, and I can hear it. So you have these, the visibility is down. People have their headlights on. I'm guessing a lot of people are going to start stopping, and we're going to have some issues on the highway, or it might be a couple of minutes here before we can get out of this. But I don't know if our what's going on now, Sarah?
We got a report of 73 miles per hour in Cedar Rapids.
73?
Right, in Lynn County. So, I know you said we might have a little weaker winds. 73 miles per hour is certainly still intense. Not that 90 mile per hour gust that we were seeing. But again, it still has room to pick up. It hasn't really died down, and as it continues pushing through the area, we may get a little bit stronger portion of the storm, helping those winds to increase. But yeah, lots of tree damage already. Trees and streets apparently. I did look up outages as far as Alliant, and 83,000 customers across the state are already out. A lot of those will likely be in central Iowa at this time, still waiting for reports to come in with that as it pushes across really the major cities here in eastern Iowa. But definitely an intense storm. You can see that camera shaking over the Cedar Rapids right now as it begins to move through. Lots of rain coming along with it. You're starting to see cars. Obviously, you see their headlights on. They're driving really slow out there. There's a couple pulled over. Really stay home for the next couple of hours as this storm pushes through.
Yeah. The doors just blew open in the studio.
Wow.
The doors just got blown open.
Wow.
You can just hear the
see it.
intensity. Yeah, there it is.
It's 12:30, but it feels like very nighttime out there.
Yeah, wow. We have these very intense thunderstorms coming through. We have seen businesses, we have seen semis flipped over, we have seen homes, we have seen so many issues from these storms. They looked like a power flash. I think I just saw a power flash. We are going to be experiencing power outages, and just the roar is going on. And this is not a tornado. This is simply a thunderstorm with straight line winds that are likely upwards of 70 miles an hour or greater. And you can see debris flying. The tower that is above us, you can hear that. It's always an eerie noise. But if you're in your home right now, you want to stay away from windows, stay away from doors in your home, and you want to just stay in the interior and treat it like a tornado, lowest level of your home, because we are dealing with very intense rain and wind with these thunderstorms. This is heading through the Cedar Rapids area right now and heading towards Solon, Lisbon, going through North Liberty and Iowa City right now. It was moving our camera up there on the tower hills. And going to continue to the east. This sounds intense just from in here. I'm sure it sounds very intense in your homes. This is an incredibly strong storm. It sounds very, very, very strong.
We do have a cam pulled up on the weather.
There's
at I-380 at
8th Street. So this is around the S-curve in downtown Cedar Rapids. You can just see, you can hardly see, but it doesn't look like there are many people out there right now. And you can see some headlights, some people look like they're slowing down some. It's going to be very difficult to see out there. And also just, not a time to be out on the roads, not a time to be going out of your home. There are some people out, but they're moving very, very slowly right now. So we are going to just continue to have these issues here around the Cedar Rapids area as this comes through. Now, when we get on the back side of this initial kind of wave and line, things die down a little bit, but we're still talking about 60-mile-an-hour winds. So we're still going to be experiencing some very strong winds as this comes through. And this is going through the Cedar Rapids metro right now. This is in the northeast side of town where, I mean, on our skycam, we can hardly see anything. Here's Highway 30 and C Street, south side of town. There's a semi just stopped there. It sounds like it sounds very intense inside of here. And there's the skycam. And you can see the rising motion of the clouds there, Sarah.
Yeah,
it looks like, I think it got pointed upward.
I really think something, because there's no way. I do think it has been blown over. That is not unheard of. But,
I hope it's still attached.
I hope we can show you it
Wow,
at some
the
point.
winds are very strong. It is very eerie. The building, oh my gosh.
The building is shaking.
It sounds like something fell on the building. I think we need to, we're gonna just assess how things are here, but the lights are shaking.
Yep, things
Please
are
stay
rattling.
inside of your home.
Please, if you're driving, pull over. Lots of cars have pulled over. Take shelter. Get inside a store. This is, again, tornado force, hurricane force winds. Our building is shaking.
Yeah, we have very intense winds going on. We're gonna go into our master control to take shelter. We advise you to do the same. Very intense winds are going on. I'm gonna hope that you can still hear me while I do this. We have a very intense thunderstorm going on here in Cedar Rapids where we can see things swirling outside. So we're walking through the building here. We are trying to get to shelter here. And
if we look out the window, we can look through the door right now. It literally looks like a tornado is occurring. That's how intense these winds are right now.
Normal power's down. Transformer just blew up outside.
Transformer blew up outside. We could see power flashes. The doors to the exterior part of our building are opening and closing. It looks like a tornado is occurring. I mean, we have things whipping around, very, very intense winds. And we have, this is going into Iowa City. There are trees coming down, very large trees. And we're in a safe place. So I can't exactly tell you what's on your screen right now, but I can tell you what's going on outside. And you need to be in an interior room and away from doors and windows. So in Iowa City, same deal. Quentin, if you could describe to me what's on the screen, what it looks like in Iowa City.
Yeah, so I can sort of see it a little bit. It looks like there's rain falling there. Again, it's still
not
moving.
quite as intense.
It's not what we're seeing here in Cedar Rapids, but you can see the rain, the clouds moving in, and it likely will be very intense there momentarily. Again, the storm is moving pretty quickly across eastern Iowa. Winds aren't really dying down much.
It looks like cell towers are down. Things are hitting this building. Very large tree branches are down. And I know my phone has no cell data.
I'm not getting anything
if you are in advance of this thunderstorm, if you're in Anamosa, if you're in the areas like Iowa City, you are going to be experiencing some incredibly intense winds. You need to stay indoors and be prepared that you may lose power, you may lose cell service. We have incredibly intense thunderstorms coming through the area right now that are this is 90-mile-an-hour winds. This could be just very intense thunderstorms it's widespread. This is not just a tornado warning in one localized area. It is widespread across the area. And Quentin, if you have any more cameras you can pull up, I'm watching you right now. I can see from the control room. Take that Cedar Rapids camera. I don't know where it exactly is pointing, but you can't see anything, but there's flashes going on. There's possibly it could be pointed anywhere right now, but we have visibility that is totally down. Large trees I can see outside. I mean, the wind is just rushing. This is like you're in a hurricane.
Absolutely.
And it's prolonged and intense. So we are going to have to stay away from the studio for right now until this passes through. But we can see the Pentecrest camera and in Iowa City there, and it's going to start to get more intense there. So what you're seeing in Cedar Rapids, that's starting to get into Iowa City now. and we are going to have the intensity pick up. So you can see the lowered visibility in Cedar Rapids. It is going to start to drop in Iowa City, and it is, I mean, this is prolonged. This has been 20 minutes maybe. This has been ongoing here as it started to pick up in the Cedar Rapids area, and we are going to get out of the worst of it here gradually, but it's still likely going to be some very intense winds that are ongoing, upwards of, you know, 60 miles an hour winds or so as we go through here. So as you can see, we have the thunderstorms ongoing, and they are going to be going through Cedar Rapids, and you can see the patio here. So here's debris littered. I don't know what hit our roof, but something hit our roof. Does anybody know? Something hit our roof. Something came down and hit the roof of the studio. And you may be hearing that too in your homes. This is intense. This is a very strong thunderstorm. It doesn't look as bad as that skycam looked, but I'm still looking outside right now, and it towards Collins, and it just looks like a bit of a war zone, like after a hurricane. You're looking at widespread damage. I'm sure that, I mean, we've heard that the transformer blew. I'm sure that there are trees and power lines that are down. So we're gonna take a deep breath. We all are. This is not over. This is going to continue to go through eastern Iowa, and we are going to continue to see these incredibly strong winds that are going to come through the area here.
Yeah, so the verdict is it was around or a little above 80 mile per hour as it moved through Lynn County here. Fairfax, that was the report. It does seem like we've hit the worst of the winds at this time, but it's still pushing through the area. It's still gonna be windy, just dying down slightly. Plenty of rainfall coming along with it. Still looks like it hasn't died down much out there.
I mean, it's still dark. It looks like the worst of the winds are maybe starting to back off in this northeast Cedar Rapids, but there's still, it's intense. There's just leaves splattered on our door. There's, it's just a lightning and possibly power flashes of these things going down. And yeah, I'm trying to see if we can pull up some more information from the Weather Service as we're out of the studio at the moment. But once we can get back in there, yeah, okay. Well, the doors are blowing open again, so we're not quite out of the woods. But oh wow, that was a very large tree. Very large tree just came down in right at Broadcast Park. Very large tree. So we still have some intense winds to get through. We're not done, as I said, and we're still not done with the area either. So so they're saying 80 mile an hour winds in Cedar Rapids.
Now we're looking at 70 mile per hour. Like we said, when you first start moving that storm across, you're going to get probably the most gusty winds along with that. Now that Cedar Rapids is more in the central portion of the storm, we're seeing 70 to 75 mile per hour winds. Sirens should be sounding out there. I mean,
yeah, I'm sure that they are if they can. I know that they in the emergency. Wow, that's just intense. In the emergency headquarters, I was talking to Steve O'Connick earlier, and he was ready. But I mean, here's just a look. I-380 Collins Road. Intense winds going on northeast side of town. And this is what we're experiencing here. We're looking out the door, and we're away from the door, I promise. We're far enough away, but you can just hear noises. Things are hitting the roof. Doors are being blown open. There is just a lot of intense wind and rain ongoing here.
Yep.
And we are going to continue to see tree damage, power line damage, transformer damage, and all this kind of stuff. We have multiple transformers have blown and large tree limbs down in Iowa City.
Yep.
We have large tree limbs down in Fairfax. We have a 90 mile an hour now severe thunderstorm warning for Cedar, Clinton, Jackson, Johnson, Jones, and Lynn County. This is not over. We are still going to be experiencing incredibly intense winds. If you are hearing about these reports and you're in these areas, if you're in these areas that are east of Cedar Rapids, Anamosa, Tipton, Wilton, Maquoketa, Eldridge, Davenport, Muscatine, if you know anybody traveling on these highways, on I-380, still right now, Highway 30, I-80, heading to the east out of Cedar Rapids and Iowa City, this is heading that way. It is incredibly intense right now, and it is not done. And we have one of our engineers just saw there's a very large tree down outside. Hopefully everyone's cars are okay. Maybe not, but hopefully if you...
Yeah, we just got a wind gust report of 100 mile per hour in Hiawatha.
Wow.
So
that is northeast Cedar
shocking.
Rapids. So we thought that, wow. I mean, it is very intense out there still.
Right.
It's hard to tell on the radar when the way that this bent up to the north, we thought maybe we would escape some of the worst of it, but then it got intense again. It picked up again in Cedar Rapids. So we're talking about over 100 mile an hour winds. And this is a look, I mean, you can kind of see debris flying. I don't know what happened. Hopefully our camera's still on the roof. We're not sure, but it is still low visibility going on. We might just be pointed up at the clouds at this point. I'm not really certain.
That's what it looks like. But then again, with the wind and the rain, we have really no idea. It just glitched a little bit, as you saw. It might be losing some connection there as well. But yeah, we're basically centered in this storm right now. So we're about halfway through the worst part of it, theoretically. It's going to continue to push through. 70 to 80 mile per hour winds out there still. Again, 100 mile per hour reported in northeast Cedar Rapids.
You can just hear the intensity of these winds coming in. We're in the hallway. I don't know if you can hear that on here, but it is very, very loud and very intense. Okay, so we have video from Iowa City of
it's from
the
Emily
winds.
Chavez. Yeah, the storm's made its way to Iowa City again. It did come a little bit later than we saw in Cedar Rapids. You can see that curve there, but for the most part, Iowa City is also centered in this storm. Not getting winds as great as we're getting here in Cedar Rapids. I think the one I saw was 80 mile per hour there, but still, very intense.
Very intense. That's still incredibly strong. And we have just, this damage is going to be extensive. And it's not, as I mentioned, done. Mount Vernon, you're getting in on these very strong winds. Martell, moving through Springville, Anamosa, and going towards Morley, Olin, Stanwood, Tipton. This bend that you're seeing on the radar on your screen, that is an intense derecho, a bow echo of a thunderstorm that is going to be coming through and leading to the intense winds that are going on out there. The building is still shaking here. So here's a live look in Iowa City, and you can see the buses are stopped. I mean, rain and wind, I mean, you can just see the wind. It's very, very intense there. I don't think our Cedar Rapids camera is really quite capturing what's going on anymore, but okay, so here's a live look inside of our studio.
There's
why we're not in there right now. But the lights, the ceiling is shaking. We could hear everything shaking in there. So this is why it's so important for you to be in that lowest level of your home, to be away from the windows and away from the doors, because we have these intense winds that they're just kind of ebbing and flowing. I just saw a flash outside. It looks like these whirls are going on, these like little whirls of it doesn't necessarily look like it's a tornado, but it does.
You
like
should
it's
be
a little
treating
whirl.
it almost as one with
it
these winds.
absolutely is.
Stay away from the windows. I mean, people are reporting that their doors are getting blown out. I would not be shocked if ours got blown out here. They keep flying open. Again, we still about halfway to go with this storm for the time being. Most of Lynn expires at 1:30. The western portion expires at 1:15. So, you know, in the next 20 minutes, hopefully this is going to die down a little bit, but that's still an extended amount of time that you have to be dealing with this storm.
And there's Iowa City. You can see on the ground the winds blowing, and then the Penncrest view from higher up above. We have it looks like it just stopped maybe, but you would see it shaking. The doors here are, you know, blowing open, and that's what you just heard there. We are in the hallway. So I just want to let you know that we are safe. We are in far enough away, it might just sound a little loud, but we are far enough away that we are okay. And once this passes, hopefully we can get back in the studio. But we have very large trees that are down. The tower is still up, right, guys?
Yeah, but it's shaking.
The tower is shaking. That's never good news. But here's a look from our camera. The camera might not be attached, but it's not showing much for us right now, but just showing you whatever's going on up there. It looks like we're looking straight up at the clouds, I think, but we have just these intense winds, these flashes going on. Either it's a lightning flash or it's the camera actually flashing itself. But this is continuing to produce these very, very strong winds on the order of 60 to as much as 100 miles an hour.
Right, it looks like a little bit further south towards Iowa City, far down towards Washington, winds are not as intense. You can sort of see that on our radar a little bit, but if you look in Iowa City right now, again, they showed our radar, there you go, a little bit further south, you do see it's slightly weaker, but not by much, like we said.
I think it's definitely going to be different at the ground level when you're just watching this. You know, and this, unfortunately, I want you to stay away from your windows. We will show you video. I'm sure we're getting video, but we have the wind and the leaves and the branches and everything that are just going to continue to, come down and cause issues here and cause the power to go out. So here's video from Belle Plaine that they have, and yeah, this is what we're looking at. You're just seeing the winds very intense, the rainfall very intense, and it's taking down trees. We have, very large trees outside of Broadcast Park. Or like, Corey, are they all down?
They're almost all down.
Almost all of the trees are down. So we have this is going to be the case across the area here as this comes through. We had reports of winds of 100 miles an hour in Hiawatha. Here's Iowa City, where things maybe not quite as intense.
It looks
but
like, it doesn't seem like they have as many reports of trees and branches in the street. You can see that on that cam right there.
So they said 70 mile an hour winds.
Yes.
Minor damage to new construction sites have been ongoing in Iowa City. So we do have that. Widespread tree damage in Cedar Rapids, numerous high wind reports, numerous power outages, trees down in West Liberty. If you are to the east of here, and I'm going to emphasize this, we are broadcasting on Facebook Live. You are going to lose power. You may briefly lose cell service. Mine came back. But if you are to the east of the Cedar Rapids area along Highway 30 to I-80, be prepared for your power to go out. Unfortunately, we're going to have tree and crop damage, and we are going to have these power outages that may last several hours, just like we saw a couple of weeks ago. But we are going to have.
We're getting reports that most people in Cedar Rapids do not have power.
Yeah,
not shocking with those winds.
Most people don't have power.
Yeah, especially
so
on that northwest side.
I know I got a text from a few people, and they were asking if we were on Facebook Live. We're on Facebook Live. We're here. And if you lose power, you can go to your phone and see it there. Hopefully your phone is charged. And this is going to be just a very intense period of time. And here's a look at Broadcast Park right outside. So, everything's pretty much down. And
there are not many trees standing out there.
No. And things are coming down. There's just like leaves splattered. It's likely going to look like a bit of it reminds me like after a hurricane, you step outside and you're dealing with this very widespread damage. We have this very intense area of wind, and just seeing the way that it's blowing open the doors and the way that the leaves are splattered on
look at our studio. It's shaking again in there. You can see it
on the glass. We have a big tower that sits above our studio, and we have the ceilings shaking in there. Luckily, in the hallway that we are, it's shaking in that studio. Where we are here, we're in a more solid zone, and we are still experiencing those winds. It has been, I don't know when we first started to get those winds, but Shellsburg now saying estimated gusts over 100 miles an hour. Multiple campers blown over. Shelter at the roof blown off. Shelter roof at the park blown off. We have
100 mile per hour winds still.
Yeah, still these have been multiple reports of 100 mile an hour winds in the area that have been prolonged. It looks like, did it flash in here just now? We have the transformer that was blown. You can't really see much on our Cedar Rapids camera. Once we can get back in the studio, maybe we can see some other things in the area if the rest of the cameras are still surviving. But we can't show you everything right now, but widespread tree damage, widespread power outages, and this is going to continue to the east.
We got about, we're showing power outages right now. You can see widespread across Cedar Rapids. It's almost impossible to keep your power on with winds upwards of 90 to 100 miles per hour across the board. It's probably going to take some time to get these all back on, but again, with these winds, hurricane force, tornado force winds, it's going to blow over those power lines. And if it's not doing that, it's going to blow over all the trees. Again, not very many standing here in Broadcast Park, taking out the power lines. We do have, it looks like, about for western Lynn County, 15 more minutes in this warning. Hopefully by then we're just getting some widespread rain and thunderstorms, not nearly as intense, but far eastern Lynn County and far off towards the Mississippi, that one goes till 1:30. So we do still have a good amount of time that we're going to be seeing these damaging thunderstorms and winds, and still here. It doesn't look like it's died down much. I do think it was most intense for those first couple minutes as the storm progressed in the area. You can look at our studio though, it's still shaking in there. Still can't head back in right now. Again, those lights are rattling. That's the camera that you're seeing there too.
I'm just looking at some of the estimates on my radar on my phone, and I mean, they're still showing some winds of around 100 miles an hour. Now, that doesn't necessarily mean that's translating totally to the surface, but we could still be seeing some very intense winds. So here's a look at Cedar Rapids damage in the area. I mean, the branches that are down, it looks like possibly cars, windows that were maybe blown out there. Awesome. But I mean, it is all coming down, unfortunately. Mm-hmm. And we have still some more of the storm to get through. So it should kind of quiet down a little bit, but it looks like it just kind of cycled back up on the back behind here. Mm-hmm. And we've kind of just been having that kind of ebb and flow from what we've been seeing outside of the winds picking up and dying down. And if you are heading towards Anamosa, or if you are in Anamosa, Olin, Loudoun, Durant, in areas like Tipton, you're probably getting in it right now, Wilton. These are areas that are up next. And these storms are moving at 50 to 60 miles an hour, producing winds of upwards of 100 miles an hour, 100 miles an hour. We have had multiple reports, confirmed reports of 100 mile an hour winds. Please stay away from the windows. And even, I want to stress this too, where the storms have come through, you need to wait. I know that everyone gets antsy about the power being out. Please do not go driving around. There are likely some power lines down. There's likely going to be a lot of issues. There's likely going to be some obstacles to go through, some trees that you're going to have to go through to drive. So that's why we would prefer if you just wait, let the cleanup crews get to what they can, let this storm pass through, because it is going to be likely dangerous to be outside it. I mean, I've been through a hurricane from Florida. Like, just knowing the afterwards of that, you can sometimes get into these situations where there's widespread damage going on. There was a pentacrest really quick there.
Yeah, so it looks like it's died down a little bit in Iowa City for the most
The
part.
south side looks like it's just not as intense, but there's still probably some good 60, 70 mile an hour winds going on. And we have just this little area, what it looks like in Cedar Rapids, of rotation, mm-hmm. of where there's just this enough spin going on this clash. Yeah. This clash is leading to the winds that are continuing to be intense, and that is what is causing the problem, I think, in the Cedar Rapids area. And if we have the radar up, there you can see it kind of like bows back into Cedar Rapids, and it's like we refer to this as like a comma head. And so you draw a comma, it has that, sometimes people draw it with like a period and then a line down. That comma head is that intense period, intense area where there's likely rotation going on. That's what's likely causing these 100 mile an hour winds.
Yeah, and so we're going to catch the back end of the storm here shortly. Like she said, it is continuing to build with each radar scan. We are seeing it. So we're going to be dealing with some storms for the next couple of minutes at least. Again, it is supposed to expire at 1:15, may get a little bit extended as the storm continues to kind of curve around that way. But at least on the western side, or the eastern side of Cedar Rapids, again, towards the Quad Cities, towards the Mississippi, you've yet to see these storms. And they're not dying down too much, still producing these winds upwards of 70 mile per hour at this time. Not seeing, again, still getting the storm reports, several trees down. I'm looking out the window here in Cedar Rapids. We're still getting gusty winds out there. It doesn't look like it's dying down much. As Rebecca mentioned, we are seeing a level of rotation on the radar, mainly because you can see that kind of spinning around there on our radar, and it is, gaining strength there, and that's where we're seeing that rotation. It does not necessarily mean we're seeing a tornado. It does mean that we're seeing those winds, those cycling, and I'm sure if you can see anything outside right now, you are experiencing that as well. And Still seeing branches and everything blowing down around there, at least for the next, I would say 15 to 20 minutes, especially here in the Cedar Rapids metro area. We're going to be dealing with these intense storms. Down south, if you continue down again in Iowa City, Washington, really almost in the clear there, still experiencing some thunderstorms. They weren't nearly as intense as what we saw beforehand. They're kind of on the back end of those now, really just some widespread thunderstorms and heavy showers, still seeing those winds. But here in Cedar Rapids, we're not done yet. We're still kind of catching the back end there.
Steve, don't walk away from me just yet. Okay. Okay, well, we're having some issues, I guess. Steve was just outside kind of examining what was going on. So I was just wondering if his account of how things were outside. But we do have some
What were you asking?
how it was outside.
Every tree in the yard is down.
Okay.
Our tower is shaking very badly.
Yes, I could hear that. The tower's shaking, trees are down.
The white building is now green with leaves.
The building's green with leaves, been just covered.
And you can't see across the street.
Yeah, I mean, it's intense. And I mean, we haven't been in the studio for probably 30 minutes maybe, I don't know. We left a while ago, so I haven't been able to move the radar. It looks like I mean, it's in a good enough spot that we can see everything.
Yes.
But I did want to talk about the fact, I mean, I don't know if Jordan wants to show here that we have, I can't change anything on our map in the studio, but we have this area that we were talking about, that comma head, and then here's the values of the rotation, and I know that's a little hard to see, but this is radar scope, and it's showing these very bright pink, purple, blue colors. That's just showing you how intense the winds are, and it just kind of cycled around the Cedar Rapids area and Marion and Robbins and Hiawatha and Springville. Those are the areas we've been seeing those reports of 100-mile-an-hour winds, and that is where the intensity has been occurring. So we need that to move to the east, but unfortunately, as it does, if that holds together, it's going to go back, it's going to go into Springville. Springville's going to experience more of that. And Cedar Rapids, we've been stuck because we're stuck in that comma head that we were talking about. We're stuck in it. And that's why it's been so prolonged here, unfortunately. And it has just been able to cycle and intensify. And I mean, I wish I could look at some like maps of the mesoscale,
Right, of what's going on out there.
you know, atmospheric conditions, but I can't exactly examine it. We do know there are very intense winds ongoing out there right now. So Jordan, you can go back to the regular radar. I know this is a little difficult to see, but this is what we got in the hallway at the moment.
The last report that I saw, I did lose service on my phone again. We had power out in Coralville, north of I-80, east side of Iowa. I would expect most areas to lose power, at least for a time being. I mean, especially here in Cedar Rapids, we got several reports before I could not connect anymore, but the majority of the Cedar Rapids metro area not experiencing power right now. Down in Iowa City, especially to the north side of I-80, power outages. And again, that's where we did see those heavier or more damaging winds for the most part.
Yeah, and I mean, we are just still hearing of these more of these reports come in. So we're just standing here in the hallway, just trying to give you guys an idea of what's going on. So Midway in Lynn County, wind gust of 112 miles an hour. I don't know where exactly Midway is. Do you know where Midway is, Steve? Well, I would imagine it's somewhere nearby, and I'm not surprised by that, unfortunately. It's between here and Center Point, so northern Lynn County. That's kind of that area I was talking about in the north there, around Marion, Springville, and that zone where we have been stuck in that kind of rotation of that area there. And this is going to continue to the east. West Branch already seeing 70-mile-an-hour winds. So the southern side of this has progressed a lot more than the northern side, and that is now where we have, these. The warnings are going on for, I think, 90-mile-an-hour winds, but West Liberty in Muscatine County, several large branches down with power flashes, so power going out there. And we are still experiencing that intense wind here in Cedar Rapids, but to the south, down I-380 toward Iowa City, it's going to start to calm down now. So we're going to maybe see those 40 to 50-mile-an-hour winds. We are going to it's going to end. In northeast Cedar Rapids, on the northern side of Lynn County, it's still kind of intense, and we can hear it outside. And hopefully they'll let us know that it's safe and the lights haven't all fallen in the studio. But for now, we are dealing with this, and we're dealing with this. A semi over. And we've seen this happen even when we don't have thunderstorms. We have 70-mile-an-hour winds. We're talking about possibly 90-mile-an-hour winds around the Swisher area, maybe 80, tipped over a semi on the highway. That's why we were talking about, you know, let's not drive right now. And if you know anyone that's out there, then this is the kind of stuff that we're seeing. So Midway is by Toddville. Okay, so all the way up northern Lynn County.
Yeah.
But that was Swisher, where the gas station was. Yeah, with the roof off and damage there.
Yeah.
And it's still intense in northeast Cedar Rapids. I don't want to discount what's going on down to the south though here. So we have these strong winds that are now moving through, and it's not as strong as what we were seeing earlier. You can actually see on the radar, it's starting to become a little bit more orange rather than the red. It's starting to become a little bit more broken up. It's not as intense down to the south, but it's still intense enough. We're not talking about 100-mile-an-hour winds, thankfully, but we are still talking about, probably upwards of 70, 80. So we have large branch in Muscatine down.
A branch with 4-foot diameter. And that's the other thing too. A lot of these reports are coming in. These are not just like little trees that are falling over. They're big, well-grown trees that are being blown over. But when you have those winds upwards of 100 miles per hour, I mean, you can expect that. I mean, yeah.
So we had one of the warnings let go now in western Lynn County and Benton County. We're starting to get into that relaxed stage, but still parts of Cedar Rapids, Anamosa, Iowa City still included in this, but it's starting to kind of back off there. Mount Vernon, you're likely dealing with the intense winds. I would say around Springville, Mount Vernon, Mechanicsville, Olin, Clarence, Tipton, you're likely still dealing with some of this intensity. And it's heading toward, it's going to pick up in Clarence. And this is what you have to look at that's going to happen. This is southwest Cedar Rapids. You can see these trees, large trees, very large trees blown down. I've heard in my neighborhood there's trees. There's a tree in my yard, I guess. So we're probably all dealing with this. And it has been very intense. I'm going to try and see if I can see any more. I've seen a lot of reports on the National Weather Service. On Twitter.
Yeah, we just got one for 60 mile per hour in Iowa City. So like she said, it's kind of backing off. We're on the backside of that storm there. That was actually a couple minutes ago that we got them, getting them a little bit delayed here because of service, but it is backing off. Looks like heavy rain in Iowa City for the time being. Still windy, but not nearly what they experienced a couple minutes ago.
It's definitely kind of winding down, but Wilton now, they have a spotter in Wilton, which is just south of I-80 and heading towards the Quad Cities area, but they are saying 90 mile an hour wind gusts, limbs down 8 inches in diameter. So still very, very intense stuff. I mean, we have in Hiawatha 2-foot diameter trees uprooted, shingles torn off of house, and power out. I think we're all kind of prepared for that. If your power's already out, we probably got a bit of a long road ahead, because I would guess
a lot of places are. It looks
also like Des Moines and Ames are all out of power.
It's most of the state.
So yeah, big chunk of area here, basically south of Highway 20. Now, I don't have it on this radar on your screen, but there are still some thunderstorms going on to the north. Luckily, you've kind of been out of the worst of it, but around Monticello, still probably some winds, maybe like 60, 70 miles an hour.
Yeah,
you can kind of see that at the top of the screen there.
It may get a little worse for the time being. That storm that we're kind of seeing in Cedar Rapids is progressing a little bit more northeast, and so it's probably going to move through there. The warning that you're seeing on the screen, the Benton and Lynn one, was expired or is going to expire here shortly. So again, more Benton Lynn, just seeing heavy rainfall at this time. Eastern Lynn still seeing those intense storms. There it goes, it updated. So this one that we're focused on right now goes to 130 for Cedar, Clinton, Jackson, Jones, Muscatine, and Scott counties. That's going to be there for the next couple of minutes. Wouldn't be surprised if it got extended a little bit for some of these counties. It has seemed to slow down just barely.
Yeah, it just seems like it's kind of cycled on the north too, that it's just wrapped around kind of in the back, and that's where it's just lasting a bit longer. And really around Tipton to now the Anamosa back towards Cedar Rapids, Marion, Springville is where it is the most intense. And now, like looking outside here now, it looks a little bit calmer.
We're still getting rain and wind.
It's still raining and windy, but we're not seeing that. We literally had things constantly splattering against the door. And yeah, so, the Cedar Rapids camera, I'm not sure where the Cedar Rapids camera's at, guys. I think it might be pointed up to the sky or down to the
It could be on the
roof.
ground. We really don't
Yeah.
know at this
So,
time.
I mean, we have a big tower. This is about 500 feet up, and you'd imagine the winds 500 feet up are actually more intense than what's happening at the surface, unfortunately. So we'll see how the state of the camera. So I was just talking to Steve O'Connick, who's at the Lynn County Emergency Management Center, and he's saying he's doing okay. They're one sounding the sirens and keeping an eye on everything. I'm gonna ask, do you guys, Steve, Corey, do you think we can go back into the studio? Should we wait?
Let me take a look.
Okay. I don't know if you guys can see the studio camera. How's the state of the lights? Oh, looks like calmer. A little shaky. Maybe we wait a little bit longer. So it's a little shaky in there. If they let us go back, that would help because we can kind of show you some more things. Yeah, Sarah can go in there and move the radar just quickly so we can
so
we
we'll get
can
you a little bit of a better
get a good view
all
of what's
these.
going on as the storms move to the east. But I'm gonna wait to see if the engineers say it's okay for us to go back because yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, we can take the power outage map. I can come look in the window of the control room. But, oh, they're telling me I can go back. But yeah, there's power outages like everywhere. So everyone is, they just laughed at me for saying that. I can't really read it right now, guys. But we do have some, obviously, okay, 200,000 customers, 460, what? So 200,000 customers without power. Okay, so we're back in the studio now.
Yeah,
We can do a little bit more.
So it looks like we got 3 major warnings in effect right now. This main one for Cedar, Clinton, Jackson, Jones, Muscatine, and Scott counties until 1:30. Again, it may get extended because like we said, it is wrapping around sort of here in Cedar Rapids. But for the most part, then there's another warning extended almost out of our viewing area. We get some of our counties in there for Carroll, Clinton, Henry, Rock Island, Scott, and Whiteside counties. That goes for almost an hour until 2:15 p.m. Again, this storm is really kind of dragging along a little bit further south. Again, almost out of our area, getting Washington County just a little bit there. But for the most part, the one that we're focused on here is the one for Cedar, Clinton, Jackson, Jones, Muscatine, and Scott counties. It looks like the storms to the furthest north, I know we were talking about one up in Monticello a little bit there, has expired.
Yeah. That's let go. So those are likely some weaker, on the weaker side. But we're back in the studio. Things are not shaking, luckily. So the lights are still on. We're okay. Hopefully you are okay as well. So there you can see the studio. Everything's all right. One of the lights looks like it's flickering a little bit, but everything looks okay. We know that there's extensive damage outside of our building. I am not going to go out there until that is deemed safe, but I am going to check on everything that has been going on here. And we have been monitoring what the Weather Service has been saying here and there, but we have these intense winds ongoing. So I'm going to show you a little bit more of what I was trying to show you on that iPad earlier, but here's a look. So it's right here in Lisbon now where this intense wind is likely occurring. And what is this going to show me? I'm guessing 100 miles an hour, 104 miles an hour. Lisbon, going around Mechanicsville to Olin. And I would imagine there's unfortunately going to be some extensive crop damage that's going on. So I'm just gonna go through this radar and kind of see how this kind of evolved. But you can see these little ripples that were kind of happening, and you see these purples and these greens pop up. And that was the cycling of this storm and this incredibly intense swath of winds just going through this area here and continuing now to the east. So if you have not yet lost power and you are in these areas around Anamosa, Tipton, Wilton, I'd imagine you probably have already. Now this is extended to the east and moving out of our area, the worst of it at least, and moving into the Quad Cities and toward the Mississippi. But we have just very intense thunderstorms still ongoing where power is going to go out. And the trees are going to come down and the corn is going to be bent, unfortunately. From Steve, who is the emergency manager for Lynn County, they're on generator power, multiple reports of damage across Lynn County. He's still working on assessing it. I was just checking in with him. We usually try and check in with each other. I can see, my apparently neighbor's tree is on their house in Marion.
Yeah.
There's neighbor's lost their 3 Seasons room. Trees are down. I'm just hearing a lot of, it just sounds nasty. And we have reports of businesses and homes that have had damage. And this is, never something we want to see. But we had something that intensified incredibly quickly. And we had started to tell you this morning there was a possibility of strong winds. And this is not something that you can always tell right away how it's going to evolve, but it evolved into a situation with winds of 100 miles an hour and possibly still ongoing in some parts of the area here. So prolific lightning is likely what we've been seeing, these flashes that have been kind of ongoing. And we also have these very intense winds on this line here. So the worst of it, at least on the east, is starting to move out of Tipton and Wilton. There's probably still some pretty intense winds there. Around Anamosa, there's still likely some very strong winds just south of Monticello. And then that warning did get extended then into Dubuque County, Bernard and Dubuque and Cascade and such, dealing with that. And then around Cedar Rapids, it seems like things have started to calm a little bit. Sarah, could we maybe see if we can get another sky cam?
Yeah.
Maybe we can get,
Sure.
I can just
I
see.
looked at a lot of the DOT cams are either out or
Yeah,
Wi-Fi
there may
isn't
be
pulling
some-
up very carefully.
some internet
so-
problems, I would imagine, but
Yeah.
so I don't know if our Iowa City camera. So
you can see the storm
is that
kind of-
that might be frozen.
Yeah, it is.
I would
Right.
guess that was earlier when right before it came through.
All right,
so
here's Coralville.
Coralville we can see. So that's definitely calmed down a bit. And this is kind of getting on the back side of that now. So some lighter rain, still some winds. You can see it shaking. That's on top of the Skogman Realty building. So definitely still some intensity going on there, but calmer than what we saw earlier.
I'm clicking on Riverside. Yeah, not again windy there, but for the most part, the worst has passed in those locations. I'll just calm it down just a little bit there.
Yeah, and we have just trees down around Cedar Rapids. I'm sure there's. I'm gonna take over this computer
Okay.
for a second and try and see if I can.
Nick posted some things that he's seeing.
Okay, so all right,
there you
let's go to the P-Scan. So here's Nick in Van Horn. He is okay, by the way. Barn has severe damage, truck blown off of a road, highway signs completely knocked over, and corn flattened. So here's the barn. That was a stop sign that was totally knocked over. Oh man, that's not what you want to see.
Yeah.
You can see the ears of corn too. It's just such a bad situation. And unfortunately, when we saw that this was that intense, we knew that this was going to be an issue, and we knew that there was going to be some damage like this. So I'm going to check in with the Weather Service. So
Yeah, I'm not seeing much coming in on there at
there's
this
some
time.
grain elevators. I think they're just kind of like hearing of damage as it comes in, but sporadic reports of wind damage along Highway 20 corridor from some of those thunderstorms that are up to the north. Now there's tornado warnings up in Wisconsin, so we're not dealing with that. But I think we maybe would prefer something a little bit less widespread and intense. But that's just very, very intense stuff going on. So Fairfield, we actually do have the Fairfield camera. I don't know if that's still ongoing down there, but winds, small to medium, tree limbs knocked around downtown. So we talked about the southern side. Oh my gosh, southern side of the area was kind of de-intensifying. So outside of our broadcast park studio, we have a patio. I know they're working on getting you guys a shot of what's going on out there, but there's just leaves everywhere. And I'm guessing you're probably seeing a lot of tree damage, a lot of damage ongoing. I'm gonna check in. I'm hearing of people taking shelter. The Amana, that's my friend that works at the Whirlpool in Amana, said they're taking shelter. So luckily, I think things are starting to calm down that way. But we have just widespread damage that's likely going on, and still some areas that are probably dealing with it too. So I'm gonna just check in. I don't know if on our Facebook feed and see if people have any questions or have any reports that have been passed along there. But Marion, damage to mobile homes on Highway 13 and Highway 151. Estimated winds of 90 miles an hour, which is also not surprising, unfortunately. We have. Let's see if I can, there's not much that's been passed along by the Weather Service, but just to show you, you know, we still have some intense winds going on. This deep blue, that's wind going to the east toward the radar. And some very intense winds going on toward the Quad Cities area. It's starting to back off, but we likely are still seeing like 40, 50 mile an hour winds around Cedar Rapids, I would imagine. And let's see. I'm getting some messages from people. Neighbor's trampoline hit our house and took out our deck. I'm not quite sure where that is located, but just some of the reports that we're hearing.
Yeah, lots of people are writing in here that roof or shingles have been blown off.
Yeah.
Mitch commented a little ago, very little visibility. I mean, we kind of mentioned that too, looking out the door, you can't see across the street for that time being. It has backed off now. Visibility has regained as far as I can tell when looking outside now,
Yeah.
but lots of people saying sirens are sounding. That's going to happen when you have winds greater of 70 mile per hour because it's very intense. It's damaging. We got lots of issues going on along with those gusts.
Yeah.
So
My concern is now in Mechanicsville and Clarence, just north of Highway 30, maybe around Morley towards Olin and Oxford Junction and Cedar and Lynn counties. That's probably where we're seeing some of the higher intensity winds now, maybe getting to that 100 mile an hour mark. And there's just hopefully backing off some, but we're just hearing of so many reports. Roof damage just north of Wilton. So we had been talking about Wilton earlier. That's south of I-80. Significant tree and property damage in Swisher. Roof damage in West Burlington. So we're starting to get into this area down to the south and east where that's where the intensity is located.
And yeah, this thunderstorm warning that you're looking at here is supposed to expire in 3 minutes. I would imagine it's going to get extended to a degree. We're still seeing lots of lightning and wind with those storms. But like she said, it is dying down a little bit as it continues to progress, but still another storm, again, sitting fairly far off to the east, or a warning that's going to continue for really the next 45 minutes. I believe it expires at 2:15, but yeah.
Yeah, so we have this warning until 1:30. So they're gonna there, and then there's another one that kind of encompasses Cedar and Jones counties until
2:15, I believe.
Yeah. So yeah, still dealing with that. But very, very, very intense winds still. It still reports a 75 mile an hour. You know, normally 75 mile an hour would be the tops for the day, but we're talking about 100 mile an hour winds that have been ongoing. So here's a look of what's currently the situation at Broadcast Park. There is a very large part of the tree that's come down there. And I mean, I don't know if we can point it down to the ground at some point, but we do have like just leaves all over the ground, and it's just all over the place.
Yeah.
Covering the ground. And I would guess that your house probably looks the same, that you're probably also dealing with a lot of debris and likely no power. There's still lightning going on out there. There's still some rain going on out there. There's still some wind going on out there. So I know that we're all eager to kind of get outside and assess the situation. But I do want to just remind you to be safe when doing so, because it is still, you know, we have power lines or transformers that are out, and some of that stuff we don't want to be caught up in. So I'll see what the Weather Service has to say about this, but Muscatine, 58 mile an hour winds, 70 mile an hour winds. Wapello was about an hour ago, they had 50 mile an hour winds. So that's also south. So it's those areas down to the south where it wasn't quite as intense. But we do still have, I mean, just these incredibly intense winds that are doing damage still across the area. So
it did look like they decided to expire it. I'm not
so
saying
they
anything
expired that
chat.
warning. No, so they may be letting that just take over to the east here. So we still have portions of our area that are dealing with the intense wind. I mean, Wyoming is probably right in it now. I'm kind of surprised because I think Olin maybe still has a bit of the strong winds going on.
Right,
and
just based on velocity, it looks like they're still getting winds up there. So,
so
next couple minutes at least, it'll still be intense.
Yeah, around Morley to Olin, Oxford Junction, I'm still thinking that that's pretty strong stuff. Clarence, Loudon, and stuff like that. And we have just really intense stuff. We do have Symphony outside. So I'll let her tell us a little bit about what you're seeing out there and then what it's been like the last hour here in Cedar Rapids.
Hi, Rebecca. I mean, I was right next to you in the hallway. The doors were blowing open, windows were shaking. We saw trees blowing when we were first in our newsroom, so we had to sprint back to the hallway to make sure we were in a safe place. And it's finally safe enough to come outside. You can see the rain is still coming down pretty hard. It's not near as bad as it was a little bit ago, but it still is coming down. And we see leaves everywhere. We saw a lot of trees around our building fall. I want you to see that, so I'm going to step out of the way and just look at that tree that's right in our patio, and it's all down. That's one of the smaller ones that we've seen with damage over here, but we're starting to hear thunder. I'm sure you can hear it right now. Haven't seen any lightning, but the thunder is starting to boom again, and the rain is just coming down pretty good. And we're gonna throw it back to you and keep assessing the damage out here. We'll continue bringing you live updates.
Thanks, Symphony. And yeah, I mean, we are starting to see things quiet down some, which is good for us in Cedar Rapids, but there's still this, intense marker of winds. So this is in Cedar and Jones counties where we're looking at, and around Wyoming, 80 mile an hour showing up here, 109 and 102. I mean, there's still some spots where it's showing up pretty intense. So what I do want you to be aware of is the radar, it goes up. So it doesn't go straight across. The beam goes up gradually with distance away. So we're maybe catching winds that are a little bit higher up, but that still could be translating down to the surface into 60, 70 mile an hour winds. We hear sirens outside. I mean, this is just going to be a lot of cleanup that's going to happen. So here's a look at Northeast Cedar Rapids, just like we are here. Roof damage, wind and trees on the roofs. And it's everywhere. And you can just see, this is extensive. This is extensive damage that occurred in Cedar Rapids, that occurred in the, northeast part of the city, in the metro area. I haven't seen much from downtown, but we thought maybe we'd get out of the woods in the north, but it cycled. It cycled up to the north and just led to it being, it was long lasting. And it intensified. So that is why we ended up seeing those stronger winds there. And we started to literally experience it here as it happened. So even the National Weather Service just reported their phone lines have gone down. And they're asking if anybody has any reports to pass it along on social media. I'm sure a lot of people are still experiencing the same issue with power outages and such. I was gonna see, I think, we have a bunch of stuff from some of our reporters who are out and about. But here, if we can go to the weather scan-do, Emily is out in Iowa City, and she was saying that you can just hear the wind, a lot of debris around. And, it looks like the downtown area is in a bit better shape than what we've been seeing comparatively in Cedar Rapids. So that is good news for Iowa City. But we have still, I'm sure some more damage that's ongoing in portions of Cedar and Jones counties. Now this is starting to break up or move out really out to the east, at least the most intense part of it, east of Anamosa and Clarence. Now Anamosa, Monticello may still be dealing with some 60 mile an hour winds for a little bit. We have some rain that's back here, and that is still going to be ongoing for a bit. So it's probably going to take a while for things to clean up and the power to come back. I don't know if we have any estimates from anywhere, but yeah, I'm sure that it's going to take several hours for things to get cleaned up. So just to kind of give you a look at everything here, and I can also pop on all of our storm reports. But we have, it's littered. You can just see where it went. We talked about south of Highway 20, around I-80. That's exactly where things set up here. And these are reports of the wind damage and the wind gusts. And there are multiple wind reports that were 90 to 100 miles an hour. Incredibly intense thunderstorm complex that moved through. And we have, power lines down, trees down, extensive corn damage, I'm sure. And just a lot of issues that are going to stem from this, that are going to last a while. So we have this power outage map, and you can see over 200,000 people without power. If we can maybe like go into the Northeast Cedar Rapids area, maybe just click on one of them. They tell you like, oh, well, I can look too on Alliant, but they can tell you how long or what their estimation is. You know, I mean, it's everywhere around the Cedar Rapids metro, and you can just see why. We had the very intense line of storms coming through. So if we can go back to the weather scan Sarah found, Dion Broxton, our reporter.
So over about an hour ago, yeah.
So this is in downtown Cedar Rapids. I mean, it looks like nighttime. We can go to the weather scan Jordan.
But it also shows you the contrast of what can happen within an hour. I think he posted this just as the storms were starting to move into downtown Cedar Rapids.
And you can still see the wind like whipping around on the ground there, and just how dark it got. I mean, it looks like nighttime. It does. It looks like nighttime. So he's like by the Cedar River there, you can see, and I mean, just intense. So we at least do have things starting to kind of quiet down in the Cedar Rapids area. There's still some strong winds here in portions of Cedar and Jones counties. So Wyoming and Clarence and Tipton, New Liberty, still dealing with that. We have this front edge here that you likely get the intense winds, and then there's still some intensity back here that's maybe mounting more towards 60 to 70 miles an hour. But this is where we're probably finding some of the stronger winds, and then we're starting to see that kind of break up where we had that issue over Cedar Rapids with the 100-mile-an-hour winds. It seems to be kind of calming down a little bit. So let's see. Trees down in Coralville, and power's out.
It does just seem like a lot of trees, branches. I mean, we talked about outside in our patios, just really covered in branches and leaves at this time. That seems to be the theme around the area. The power lines are down, obviously. We're losing power in a majority of the area. But yeah, I mean, I'm looking at our Riverside skycam right now. It has calmed down a little bit, but the wind is still on the backside of the storm, is continuing for the time being. Still raining out there. Like we said, there's going to be a lot of showers behind this. It is raining in Cedar Rapids, probably will be for the next couple of hours, but for the most part and the majority of our area, those strong storms have moved off east for the time being. But
yeah, so we got a little bit more just kind of south of Monticello, maybe, where it's kind of still intense just east of Wyoming, but that part is starting to move out. Before we let this go, we are going to, I want to show you a video from Nick Stewart, who was in Benton County. If we can go to our weather scan but just along Highway 30 in Benton County, you can see grain bin, like it looks like part of it just down. Wow. I mean, this farm has just got a lot of damage, unfortunately. And you can just see the power of the wind bending that silo. I mean, it's intense.
Yeah, absolutely.
And so this was in Benton County. So he was in Van Horn. There's another grain bin that's like right on the road where it's not supposed to be.
It literally looks like tornado damage.
Yeah.
But there wasn't.
It's straight line wind. I mean, just straight line winds, just blowing things straight across. You know the difference because it's blowing things straight across. Tornado damage, you'll see things kind of in a swirl. But here you see things are just kind of tossed straight out. These east winds going on. I mean, all this kind of tossed around along Highway 30 there in Benton County, and that's likely what it looks like in Tama County. We likely have a lot of these power lines down, trees down, large trees down, corn down, and there are going to be very, very intense. I mean, from these intense winds, you're going to have this very, very extensive damage.
I am seeing a lot of reports on social media that nearly almost everyone in Lynn County has lost power for a time being.
I would guess so.
Yeah, I mean, lots of areas in the central portion of the state as well, but it really did gain some strength as it moved into our area, and people are probably going to be without power for the time being.
Yeah. So, you know, if you are watching us on Facebook, we're going to wind down our coverage here shortly, but I do want to try and get some information if people are wondering about something. I mean, like, at least with Alliant, we can maybe see when they're looking at power coming back, but it's going to be probably a while. And this was just such an intense widespread kind of swath here that we were dealing with of storms, and it doesn't. It's kind
Yeah,
of
I think the
angry at me.
website it had. I had
there
some
it
issues
goes.
pulling it up too.
So I mean, yeah, just like Lynn County is littered, and in like northeast Cedar Rapids, I mean, there's just tons of these neighborhoods that are without power. So they're looking at like 3 p.m. in northeast Cedar Rapids for restoration, so an hour maybe. But we know last time, like the whole city was without power, and we had, we had to wait a little bit longer.
And it's important to note too that, I mean, we're still getting some of those winds. I mean, you can't fix the power lines when it's pouring rain and you got the winds going.
So
and if you,
it's probably gonna take them a while. It looks like around Unity Point. Hopefully, I mean, I know the hospital probably back up their generator and there and such. So I mean, yeah, it's like all of Lynn County are dealing with this. All of Cedar Rapids is dealing with this, and it doesn't want to show me all what times, but I'm guessing that it's going to be a couple of hours here that we're going to have to deal with these power outages. And if you are looking for more updates, we are going to be, updating you on Facebook, on Twitter. We'll be back at 5 p.m. Hopefully the power's back up by then. But we have a lot of still rain to get through here to the back, on the back side. The winds are dying down, but the rain is, and still some maybe 30-40 mile an hour winds are going to be going on. So the intense part of this is starting to really back off here now. So that is good news.
Yeah, and we actually, our news director just came in that the Marion Police Department is saying, please stop the 911 calls for the storm damage.
Okay.
They're aware of a lot of storm damage. They're evaluating the situation, but do not call 911 for that reason, obviously, unless it's a life-threatening situation.
Right. I would imagine they want that cleared up to make sure if there are any injuries or there's anything serious that's going on, any fires or anything electrical that's going on that's a big issue. I would imagine that's the case like everywhere. That's the case that, if you just don't call the emergency line. If you need to, call the non-emergency line. But I'm sure that all of the police departments around here, they're all aware of the situation, and they are they're going to be working on it here. So we do have a lot of cleanup that we're going to have to get through across the area, big area here. And to show you some of that, Symphony's outside of our studio here, Broadcast Park. She's inside here, but she's going to talk about some of the damage that's gone on outside, which we know is extensive, Symphony.
Yeah, that's right, Rebecca. Well, I was just outside. We had to come inside because we started seeing that lightning, so it was too dangerous for us to be outside, but things had settled down a bit. But now I wanted to explain what was going on with this window. We saw it just start to shake, and it was booming, and so that's why we ran and we went to the hallway. But if I step out the way, you can see, we told you about all the damage around our station. Look at the tree. That's a different tree that's down right there. I'm told that if you go to the front of our station, the whole tree line in front is down. So we have trees down all around the building, and we keep seeing the rain out there. And I think things are settling down a bit, but we'll keep bringing you the latest. We're going to try and get you a live hit of that other storm damage out in the front of the building, but I'll send it back to you in the studio.
Thanks, Symphony. Yeah, I mean, we know there are very large trees here too, and we've heard that like all of them are down. I'm hearing about a lot of damage in my neighborhood in Marion. I'm sure that when we both go home, we are going to have to wait for the power to come back. And this is going to be the case for a while, for several hours here, as we had, just to recap, 100 mile an hour plus winds. I believe 100 miles an hour in Springville, Hiawatha reported. Around Tama County, they were saying they were sure it was 100 miles an hour winds. I'm sure that we had 100 mile an hour here in northeast Cedar Rapids. It was quite intense. So we had this line of storms that just raced. This is a 3-hour loop, and these storms raced from I-35 to the Mississippi in that period of time. So the combination of some very intense winds in the upper levels of the atmosphere and the storm motion of 60, 70 miles an hour led to these winds of 100 miles an hour being produced at the surface. And now we have a lot of cleanup ahead of us here. So we have, we obviously are going to have to deal with power outages. We're going to have to deal with the trees being cleaned up. And just another thing, if you did not hear us earlier, please don't call 911 to tell them about storm damage. They want to leave that line open for life-threatening situations. I'm gonna guess that was from Marion PD. They said that. I'm gonna guess that's the case like in every PD
Probably,
in every town
yeah.
that's dealing with it right now. And also another thing I want to stress is just give it some time here and wait for things to get cleaned up before you start driving around and looking, because it is going to be a lot of stuff in the way. There's going to be a lot of the trees and power lines that are down that may be dangerous that they're going to try and clean up. So before we start looking around and stuff, we want to let the emergency crews kind of take a look at everything. So still some very intense thunderstorms heading to the east. This is around Dubuque, Bernard, Bellevue. They had some wind damage up this way, and now this is heading toward the Mississippi. And this warning does go until 2:15. I would imagine they're going to scale this back in Cedar and Jones counties. It's starting to wind down some around Wyoming. There's still some kind of strong winds in the northeast. It's starting to back off. It's definitely stronger around the Wheatland area into Clinton County and toward Davenport and such. So this is starting to kind of calm down in our area here and wind down. If you were with us earlier, meteorologist Nick Stewart is okay. He was in the Road Warrior. He did have the thunderstorm there. Basically, right in Van Horn, likely was experiencing 90-mile-an-hour winds or greater. He is doing okay. He has been getting us video and showing us some reports of what's been going on there. And now we have this activity moving out to the east, and we are going to assess and bring you the latest on all the damage across the area and what has happened as this moves now out, and we can get a look of how things are. But have you seen any more reports come across?
No, not really. I mean, like we're getting some wind reports. I guess it hasn't died down too much. A wind report of 77 miles per hour in Rock Island.
Yeah, but so that part, it's winding down in our area at least. So that part toward the Mississippi,
Sure.
that right ahead of it, right there, that's where we're going to see the intense part.
Right.
So that's still going on for sure. But back towards our area.
Yeah, not seeing anything new.
What was the Asbury in Dubuque County? And it looked like there was a report there in Dubuque. Trees down in Viola roadblock. 70-foot tall tree tree toppled in Asbury in Dubuque County. That's pretty strong there, and that wasn't even really in the worst of it. Muscatine, large trees down. This is all really starting to go to the east toward the Mississippi, where the intense parts are. So that is good news at least, but there's still like some very prolific lightning going on around Dubuque and Bernard, heading now towards Bellevue, Maquoketa, Welton, Clinton, Davenport, and continuing now into Illinois and continuing into Wisconsin. So unfortunately, it is going to still persist down to our south and east, but we're starting to see that calm down, at least in our area, for CBS2 and Fox 28. Now, Symphony is going to show us some more of the damage that's been going on just here in Broadcast Park, Northeast Cedar Rapids, likely what a lot of people are probably seeing outside their windows, Symphony.
That's right, Rebecca. You know, you've been showing pictures, and I've been trying to show what I could here. We're outside. You can see the rain is coming down, but there is a lot of damage out here. I'm going to step out the way so you can see. Look, our satellite is literally down. There's a giant tree right next to the other satellites. It is pretty bad out here. You know, all the trees around this is exactly what you're seeing around the entire area. If you can pan to the right, Quentin. So over there, all the trees, our entire tree line has fallen down. These are really, really big trees, and they've just completely split in half. There's just a lot of damage out here, and you know, it's like this all around our building. It's right, it's all around the area, and things have settled down. You know, all we're dealing with now is that mild rain, so it's really not bad, but there is a ton of damage out here, just covering the entire area. We also have, walk up here a little bit, Quentin. Can you show that the power lines are down? So right there, the power lines are down, and there's actually crews out working on the electricity right here, right outside Broadcast Park. And you know, there's crews all over the area because most of the people around Cedar Rapids are powering all the house powers out. location, and there are so many trees down, and even one of our satellites, like I just showed you. I'm going to send it back to you, Rebecca.
Yeah, I didn't think we were hearing noises and things hitting the roof, shaking this room here. So we are in an exterior room here in the studio, and we have doors that go right out to our patio, and then our satellite farm, if you've driven past on Collins and Old Marion Road, which you can't go on right now, but we do have, we are right by the exterior, and we were hearing things hitting the ceiling. I don't think I've ever thought we would lose a satellite. But we have a lot of big trees and a satellite down here at Broadcast Park. And Symphony, if you could not hear her, was saying we had power lines down. There looked like an Alliance truck that was nearby that was trying to fix things up, probably trying to clear out the road. So we'll see if we can actually drive around here. We're not sure. And we do have just, some really intense thunderstorms that move through. So the worst of it's really starting to get out. In Dubuque, I'm not even sure how strong they're saying those winds were, but possibly up to 70 miles an hour.
I do know our camera there has gone down, so that's not live.
Yeah, that's
I'm
not
sorry.
live. Yeah,
but
that was
yeah,
way before. We have a couple of reports around Cedar Rapids. Clinton's reporting 69 mile an hour winds, 75 knot wind gust. So that's probably close to, 80 something, maybe close to 90. And so they have, very strong winds still in the Quad Cities and to the east. Cedar Rapids, heavy damage reported, heavy housing equipment. I was just trying to see what Dubuque's warning was for, but they were saying, I think, 60 mile an hour winds maybe, but it's back there. So I think things are starting to certainly kind of calm down here in the eastern Iowa area, with the exception of right along the Mississippi. That's where the intense stuff still is. And it's starting to kind of clear out of the Davenport area and Clinton and Maquoketa and such, but some very, very intense winds had been ongoing. And so we obviously have extensive damage that's been ongoing between areas basically south of Highway 20, near north of I-80. We do have Emily Chavez, who is out in Iowa City, and she had been sending us some videos and some pictures of what had been going on down that way, and I think she's going to talk to us here shortly, but she has been she was out there and saying that they had some strong winds as well. It did not look as intense as Cedar Rapids, so I'll be interested to see what exactly the damage looks like there. But we will go to Emily now. She was just setting things up there. But Emily, tell us what you're seeing there out in Iowa City.
Yeah, that's right, Becca. Well, if you can take a look behind me, you can kind of see all the debris that's going on. As you can see, there's so many branches, everything down in the Ped Mall. Earlier, the wind was crazy. The buses actually had to stop. We were in the Memorial Mall, and the lights were flickering. The Wi-Fi cut out. We heard sirens going on. So right now, people are starting to walk. Before, people were very hesitant. As you can see, we're going to kind of show you all the damage around, all the debris falling now. Here's downtown Iowa City. I'm not sure if you can see, but way down there, there is actually a traffic light that is down. A bunch of debris just all over. Now, we've been in the Memorial Mall for about 2 hours now, and between them, we could hear the wind inside of the mall. Our lights were flickering, our Wi-Fi was going in and out. But now traffic is starting to pick up, and before, like I mentioned, the buses were down, everything. It was kind of scary, and I'm sure that you guys saw through the skycam that you just couldn't see outside. So now it has lightened up. We have heard a couple of thunder here and there, and then lightning as well. People are starting to walk out again. Traffic is starting to resume, but there's just so much debris out there. Whew. The wind is starting to pick up, though, as you can probably hear. But we will be keeping you updated throughout, and just all of the damage that's going. So we'll keep you updated and make sure that you follow us on Iowa's News Now for all the updates. Live in Iowa City, Emily Chavez, Iowa's News Now.
Thank you, Emily. And I don't know if she can still hear me, but I heard, and this is from a resource, that the doors were blown off the main entrance of the UIHC. So it's possible that there was some damage at the hospital. If maybe Emily can check that out and make sure that they're okay. Obviously, a lot of glass at the front of the UIHC, so hopefully everything's okay there. I mean, the patient rooms aren't that close, but it's possible that there were some issues there, so hopefully that can get checked out. And I am seeing some more from Nick. If we can go to our weather scan here's a look at power lines down, sheet metal wrapped around the lines near Atkins in Benton County. I'm going to click to another one so you can stay here. Here is trucks off the road, lots of damage to barns and homes, especially roofs in southern Benton County. So you can see the roof exposed here, something that doesn't look like it belongs there. And then semi blown off the road, jackknifed. And Benton County, you can see they're just totally pushed off of the road and into a power line. And there's that. But there's, this is from Jillian, downtown in Cedar Rapids, where, you can see we were all dealing with this heavy rain and the wind going on there. So, I'm getting tons of reports from people of this damage that had been reported today. And on Center Point Road, there was the radio station, KXEL, I guess, had some damage there. So there's just there's a lot. It is everywhere. It's very extensive, and Nick is out still in Benton County, I think, trying to get back with all the power lines down and such. He's doing okay. Cell service is probably kind of funky here and there, but it's we are all going to have to wait and just kind of wait for everything to get restored and come on back. So I'm hearing around my neighborhood, trees down in the street, trees uprooted, very big trees. I have a lot of big trees in my neighborhood. My one neighbor's tree, very large apparently, is down in the driveway in the street. They're shutting off one of my neighbor's gas, so that's obviously a big problem if we have gas leaks, if we've had any damage. And so that's a big problem. I did have that report from a friend about UIHC possibly having issues there. We have the hospitals in downtown Cedar Rapids as well. Alliant just emailed me saying they're hoping it's restored by 3 p.m. That's great, but I think it's probably going to take a while for everybody.
There are some people commenting on our Facebook, and it's not shocking given we thought the storms were a little bit weaker down in Iowa City, that there are areas that did maintain power down there. So it does seem like the Cedar Rapids metro area kind of got the worst of it.
Seems like Lynn County just totally...
Yes, yeah. I know that was one of the counties that they were stressing was having the most impact, but for the most part, for the time being, a lot of us are without power. It does seem like across the board.
Yeah. So as we're, just kind of gathering some more information, Symphony's going to join us in a second. They're working on getting her ready outside. So we're with the process here. But she is going to talk to us more about some of the storm damage and an account of what's happened out there. But we have so much that I'm still working through, and I'm sure people that are just starting to get out and get pictures of things. I had a friend, one of our coworkers, Rachel, roof, patio, and shed are no longer standing or are damaged. And so, she's saying they're okay. They lost power, though. They're in southwest Cedar Rapids, I believe. So I'm trying to see if I'm sure I'm getting Facebook messages of people.
Is kind of another update there. As you would expect, scaling back that severe thunderstorm watch that we did have an effect, mainly for the western counties. It seems like they're going to continue to scale it as the storm moves off more towards the Mississippi and into Illinois.
Yeah. So if you are wondering about that aspect of things here, this is the thing for today. and this was a particularly dangerous situation watch that was posted, and now we're starting to get it scaled back, and it will be exiting the area here shortly. So Symphony is outside right now, and Symphony, tell us what's going on in Northeast Cedar Rapids.
Hi, Rebecca. I just walked across the street to talk to our neighbors across from Broadcast Park, and almost all of them have big trees in front of their house, just like we do all around the station. And I want you to see right here at this one house, their trees have fallen. They told me they have 3 big trees over here, and you can see limbs covering their area. It just happened to miss their car. Luckily, they parked in a different spot for once. We're going to go and we're going to talk to Shelby and Leah right now about their experience. So this is Shelby right here. This is Leah. Shelby, start off with me. Tell me a little bit what you heard, what you felt, and what went down.
Well, in the beginning, she was just kind of like yelling at me to get downstairs, and I'm in Iowa, and so I'm like, ooh, what's out the window? Are you sure? And then all of a sudden, it looked like you were on TV in Florida, you know? And so we heard the first big crash on the roof, and we were like, oh no, and we like scurried downstairs, grabbed our kids, our dog and cat, I guess. So, and then we were just downstairs, and through all the windows we heard shatters and just clunk, 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 and then we started hearing water come in our basement, and it was freaky, like nothing I've ever experienced before. I was just shaking, and so.
And how are you feeling?
Well, I was on the phone with my mom, and then we like lost her in the middle of it, so I was panicking a lot and just not knowing what was happening upstairs. We just got our roof done last weekend, so just trying to figure out like, okay, we have a wedding in 2 months, and we just got our roof done, and now how are we supposed to pay for all of this? That we don't know what's happening upstairs.
And you told me that the power box is down.
Yeah, it got ripped out. So we got a power box in the back, and it just kind of, the tree smashed it on the first clunk, and so then water was just coming through our fuse box and flooding our basement floor. And so I went back, and it's like our whole like eaves, is that what we call it, or fascia is just completely bent down. That tree is laying on our roof up there. So.
And you said that part of your neighbor's roof is on your house as well, right?
Yeah. Yep, our neighbor Molly, she just got her roof done too, and that's all over on our roof and all up in her yard over there. So.
And you said you're from here, and you've never experienced anything like this?
No, I'm from Iowa, and so I always come out in the yard to see, like, is there a tornado, is there not, you know? And that's why I was looking out the window, and then all of a sudden I was like, oh, okay, we need to go downstairs.
Did you imagine, you heard it, but did you imagine it was going to be this bad when you walked outside?
No, not at all. No, I thought there was just going to be a couple trees, but clearly there's more than a couple trees.
So like we've been telling you all, it is just pure devastation out here. You've seen it. We experienced it firsthand at Broadcast Park. It is a bad situation. There are trees down. There's a lot of damage. This is just going to be a big recovery for everybody all around the area. And, we saw it firsthand, and it's just a really unfortunate situation. But I'm going to send it back to you, Rebecca.
And thank you, Symphony. I mean, yeah, you can just hear, unfortunately, what it was like for people here that we are, if you didn't get into the most intense part of the thunderstorm, and I had been mentioning it was like a hurricane. She said it was like you're on TV in Florida. Seriously, it's that kind of extensive, damage and widespread, strong, prolonged winds. And it just lasted so long in the Cedar Rapids area. So luckily, we do have things winding down. Severe thunderstorm watch is still out. Now, I'm guessing this is going to get scaled back here, but we are going to see some improvements here shortly. I mean, Corey, what fell on the roof? An antenna fell off the tower on our roof. I heard things falling on the roof.
We have 2 air conditioners that are off.
2 air conditioners that are off. 1 in the yard. I saw the satellite. What's that like?
All of our steerable satellite feeds are down.
All the satellite feeds are down. So the road coming into the station is blocked, so no one can come in and out, just in case you were wondering, anyone listening from home that needs to come into work. Nick said he's stuck on Highway 30 in gridlock. Nick Stewart. So, we are going to be experiencing a lot of issues as we go through this afternoon. The good news is it's 2 p.m. If there's any good news. Most of the time, right around maybe 4 p.m. is when most of this stuff is starting. Yeah. And this was an early event. And I'm going to just show you what I was seeing this morning because it has been quite interesting. But I am at work in the early morning hours, and there was a little area of thunderstorms, if I can get out that far. Little area of thunderstorms back here. This is 6 a.m. This is what originated right here. This is what turned into what just came through. Came into Sioux City. You could see the shelf cloud. It started to intensify. The lightning picked up. Here's 8, 9 a.m. And at this point, we started to get an idea. We have sunshine. We have a lot of moisture and instability, and the winds were just ripping in the upper levels of the atmosphere. And that was that translated to this intense bowing segment of thunderstorms that has quickly moved across the state in just a matter of hours and has left a lot of destruction in its path. And you can just see that intense bowing line there. And now that has started to wind down and move to the east. So most of eastern Iowa here, we're doing pretty good now in terms of the weather currently. In terms of the pickup that has to happen, that's going to take a while. Unfortunately, hearing about a lot of damage and damage in crop damage and things that we don't want to hear about, and we definitely don't want to see this time of year. And we are going to be assessing that, and we are going to have crews all across eastern Iowa to give you that information. I think that we can go back to regular programming right now. We are going to get some more updates on Facebook and Twitter. If you have lost power and you're watching us on Facebook Live, or you still have power and you're interested, we'll be back at 5 p.m. Hopefully everyone's power is back by then, or hopefully getting close. We are going to provide updates on Facebook and Twitter and try and collect all of the damage reports and such, and get some more information from everyone in the area. And we have reporters already across the area. I was going to check just one more thing, which is our chime-in. And we had a tree downed in Anamosa. Someone sent us a pretty big tree. So Anamosa is one of those spots that was kind of getting in on some of the pretty strong winds too. That's on our weather scan too, if we want to go to that really quickly. But otherwise, we are going to just kind of collect some information about everything. We obviously are just seeing the damage here. We obviously can't leave Broadcast Park at the moment, but Symphony has just a look at what's been going on right outside the station. Symphony, tell me what's going on right there.
Rebecca, I'm about 12 feet where I was just live talking to some other people with trees down, and here is a huge roadblock on this tree. I'm standing in the middle of it, and just take a look at this. This giant tree has fallen over. It has literally busted the window of this car. There's damage to the house, not that much damage to the house, but there is damage to that house. And this is just a huge tree. I'm literally just standing in the middle of it. I'm standing by rubble in between it. There's panels from the roof. It is just an insane sight out here. And unfortunately, this is how the entire street in front of Broadcast Park looks. Like, it's bad. In front of our station, it looks bad. It's just, like I've said, it's devastating out here. There's a lot of damage. It's going to be a lot of cleanup. It's going to take a lot of time. And, you know, the people you just heard me talk to, they were shocked. They said they've lived here their whole lives. They've never heard anything like this. I was in the station. I was shocked. I was scared. You know, it was loud. Things were rumbling. The windows were shaking. It's just a crazy situation to have winds this high, you know, right outside of our station too. So we felt it, and we're just seeing all the devastation just right outside our doors. It is just an awful sight out here, Rebecca, and I'm going to throw it back to you.
Yeah, I mean, we were in here. We were all in this building. We were in this room where this isn't a shelter. We have a designated shelter in the building, and we did have to leave. And I'm sure a lot of people were taking shelter once you realized how bad and intense it was for a long period of time. And there's probably a lot of roads that look like that. So venturing out is not going to be a good idea right now. There may be people at home. I'm at work. I've been here since a long time, 12 hours almost. The road's blocked, but you know, we are going to have to clean these things up. The power lines, the transformers that are blown, it's going to take a while, especially with these large trees that are downed. The city is going to get out and do what they can. And we want to leave the emergency lines open for life-threatening emergencies, so the police and the first responders can get out to those areas. They know that there's storm damage. They're working on it. The energy companies are working on it, and we're going to get things fixed up here, but it's going to take a while. We had a very, very intense storm. You do not hear about 100-mile-an-hour winds like this very often, especially here with straight line wind damage like we have seen. So We are going to continue to gather some information about what's gone on around the area. We're going to get you some more reports, some more pictures, some more videos, and we are going to be back at 5 p.m. with more coverage on this, of course, and we are going to talk about at least some calmer weather for tomorrow. So we needed some rain. We got some rain. We got a little too much along with it with the thunderstorms, but I mean, you likely went through a historic event in parts of eastern Iowa here. This is not something that you hear about every day with 100-mile-an-hour winds, especially going through a metro area. So we are going to collect all the storm damage. We're going to do our best to get you everything that we know and let you know about cleanup and likely having to pick up debris around the Cedar Rapids area and a lot of eastern Iowa. And we are going to continue to have updates on Facebook and Twitter, on our Instagram, on our apps. You can just search Iowa's News Now. You'll find it all. So we'll be back here on CBS2 at 5 p.m. with the latest in news and weather. And until then, stay safe.
Get weather warn alerts on all your devices. Stay ahead of the storm with Iowa's News Now, Weather First.